Good morning, students. In the previous class, we have discussed about the male reproductive system. There we have discussed regarding the different organs associated to the male reproductive system as well as the different associated glands. Today, we'll discuss about female reproductive system. The human female reproductive system, it consists of two ovaries and two fallopian tubes, also known as oviducts, as well as uterus, cervix, vagina, external genitalia, and accessory genital glands. So all these parts of the system structurally and functionally support the process of ovulation, fertilization, pregnancy, and birth. So these all of the organs, they fulfill their role to perform the efficient functioning, and the process of ovulation means the release of mature ovum by the alternate ovaries after attaining the age of puberty. Fertilization means the fusion of the male and female gamete. They provides the site for the fertilization process, as well as the pregnancy means to conceive, and the birth. So, as we have discussed, the female reproductive system consists of a pair of ovaries. The ovaries, they are almond shaped, solid, grayish pink in color, and measuring around about 2 to 4 centimeter in length, 1.5 centimeter in width, and 1 centimeter in thickness. Each ovary lies near to the kidney of its side. It is also suspended from the dorsal body wall. And regarding the ovary, not only they produces or they releases the mature ovum, but just do like as in the case of testis, we have discussed, the testes are the primary sex organs. In the case of male reproductive system, they do produce the male gamete, but also they releases the male hormone which is called as testosterone. So just do like here, the ovaries, they not only releases the mature ovum, but they also release the hormone estrogen and progesterone, which are essential for the proper development of the reproductive system as well as the proper maintenance of the pregnancy. Now, regarding the fallopian tube, also called as oviduct, is concerned. So, these fallopian tubes or oviducts, they are around about 10 to 12 centimeter long, extending from the periphery of each ovary. So, we can observe in the diagram, the fallopian tube is extending from each of the ovary, and it is around about 10 to 12 centimeter in length, and it reaches to the uterus, which is also called as womb. Now the next structure is concerned, which is the uterus. Uterus, it is also called as womb. It is an hollow and inverted pear-shaped structure. So we may observe, we can imagine the structure which is just like a pear-shaped and with thick muscular wall. It lies in the pelvic cavity between the urinary bladder and rectum. If we go for its dimension, it is around about 8 centimeter long, 5 centimeter wide, and 2 centimeter thick. As for the function is concerned of the uterus, uterus receives the ovum from the fallopian tubes as well as forms the placenta for the attachment of the fetus and expels the baby at the time of birth. Whereas the function of the fallopian tube, we may enlist that fallopian tubes convey ovum from the ovary. So from both the ovary, the fallopian tubes or the oviducts, it convey the ovum released by the ovaries to the uterus, and fertilization of ovum takes place in the upper part of the fallopian tube. So the fertilization means the fusion of the male gamete to the female gamete, it takes place within this structure which is called as fallopian tube or oviduct. The cervix, which is the opening of the uterus to the vagina, is called as cervix. As for the vagina is concerned, it is a fibromuscular tube measuring around about 7.5 to 10 centimeter in length and extending from the cervix of the uterus to the vestibule on the outer side. The functions of the vagina we may enlist. It helps or provides the passage for the menstrual blood flow as well as receives the male copulatory organ during the process of copulation, as well as it serves as a birth canal at the time of delivery. There are certain external genitalia also associated to the female reproductive system, which can be enlisted as mons pubis, labia majora, labia minora, as well as clitoris. In girls, the process of puberty starts at the age of 10. The first sign of puberty is the development of breast, followed by some other developmental sequences. Thereafter, ovulation and menstrual cycle starts at the age of around about 13 to 14 years. So, puberty in the female is initiated by the hormone estrogen. As we have discussed, in the case of male, the puberty, it was initiated by the hormone testosterone. In the case of female, the hormone estrogen is responsible to fulfill or to complete the process of puberty. At puberty, we have discussed that different changes do occurs in the girls. So, one more important fact regarding the oogonia, which are formed only in the fetus, and no more oogonia are formed or added after birth. Means, after attaining the age of puberty, the ovaries which releases the mature ovum, which are derived from the process of oogenesis, they are already being formed when they were in their fetal stage. At birth, around about 2 lakhs to 20 lakhs primary oocytes are present in each ovary. Of these, around about 60,000 to 80,000 remain at puberty and around 400 mature and ovulate during a woman's reproductive life. The rest of it degenerates. So, out of these, only 400 mature and ovulate during a woman's reproductive life. As we know, the reproductive phase, the reproductive age within the females is from around about 13 to 45 on an average basis. Then we may subtract 45 minus 13, it would be around about 32 years. So means in the case of human female, the reproductive phase, it lasts for around about 30 to 32 years. So during this phase, around about 400 mature ovums they are ovulated during the reproductive life of the human female. Though a number of follicles develop during each menstrual cycle, only one ruptures to release the ovum, whereas the remaining follicles degenerate. So, during the development process, during each menstrual cycle, number of follicles they develop, but only one ruptures to release the mature ovum, whereas the others degenerate. So thus, in human female, one Graafian follicle matures on an average of every 28 days, roughly in alternate ovaries. Thus, about 13 follicles mature every year from the age of 13 years to 45 to around about 50 years of age. Now, during the sexual intercourse, the sperms enter through the vaginal passage and reaches the fallopian tube. If a mature ovum would be present at that site, then the process of fertilization may take place, and as the process of fertilization takes place, the mature ovum it transforms into an embryo. Before it forms the zygote, as the male gamete is haploid in nature, means having a single set of gene, whereas the female gamete, which is the ovum, is also having a single set of gene, means haploid in nature. So by the fusion of both the male and female gametes, zygote is formed, which is diploid in nature, and as the zygote it has been formed within the fallopian tube. So the process of fertilization takes place within the initial part of the fallopian tube, and as the zygote has been formed, it starts dividing mitotically to form the embryo within the fallopian tube, and as the development proceeds, the embryo it gets implanted within the uterus, where they continue to grow further on and develop organs to become a fetus. So we know the fetus is that stage where we can easily identify the body organs within the developing structure. As we know, the body of the mother is built on the basic plan so that it may undertake the development of the child. Hence, the uterus, it prepares every month to receive and nurture the growing embryo. The lining thickens and is richly supplied with the blood to nourish the growing embryo. So, after the implantation of the embryo within the uterus, it gets the nutrition from the mother's blood with the help of a special tissue called as placenta, which is disc in shape and embedded in the uterine wall. It contains villi on the embryo's side of the tissue. We may say that placenta is the physiological connection between the embryo and the mother, or the uterine wall of the mother, which is disc-shaped structure embedded in the uterine wall. The fetal part of placenta is formed of villi, which lies embedded in the maternal blood spaces, and it carries some essential functions like it provides nutrition and oxygen to the fetus from the mother's blood, as well as it removes carbon dioxide and nitrogenous waste from the blood of fetus, and also it produces a most important hormone which is called as progesterone, which is essential for the maintenance of pregnancy. So as we can observe the structure of placenta, which is a disc-shaped structure embedded within the uterine wall of the mother, which helps to transport the nutrients as well as helps to remove away the nitrogenous and we can say carbon dioxide and other waste products from the fetal blood. A cord-like structure containing blood vessels connects the placenta with the fetus, which is called as umbilical cord. So as we may observe, a cord-like structure having blood vessels connects the placenta with the fetus, which is called as umbilical cord. As for the gestation period or the pregnancy period is concerned, the full term of the development of an embryo within the body of mother or within the uterus of the mother is called as gestation period or pregnancy period. In human, it lasts for around about 280 days or 40 weeks, or we may say 9 months. After this period, the fetus is ready for birth. As for the birth and parturition is concerned, a few weeks before the birth, the fetus usually turns over in the uterus so that the head lies in the downward direction and just above the opening of the cervix, and the child is born as a result of rhythmic contractions of muscles of the uterine wall, and certain events do take place in the birth of a child are the first sign of labor or birth is the dilation of the birth canal, followed by the wall of the uterus. It contracts repeatedly under the influence of a hormone which is called as oxytocin, due to which the fetus is forced out, and the pain arising due to the uterine contraction and relaxation is called the labor pain. The birth of a child is called as parturition, and after a few minutes of baby's birth, placenta detaches from the uterine wall and is expelled out. So this separation of placenta from the uterine wall is called as afterbirth. Now we will try to understand what happens when the egg is not fertilized. As we have discussed, the ovary releases one egg every month. So as the ovum is released by the ovaries, at the same time, simultaneously, the uterus also prepares itself every month to receive the fertilized egg, or we can say zygote, or we can say the developing embryo. And thus the lining of the uterine wall, it becomes thick and spongy because it would be required for nourishing the embryo and to develop the connection with the embryo in the form of placenta. So if the fertilization has not took place, then what happens to the ovum and the developed or vascularized uterine wall? The life of the mature ovum which is released by the ovary is around about of 1 day, or we can say of 24 hours. If during that particular 24-hour period, if it comes in contact with the sperms, then the fusion may do take place, fertilization will take place, and followed by the further on process that we have discussed, that would be called as, we can say, the female has conceived. But in the case when the ovum has not been fertilized, what happens to the ovum? So as the ovum, it has not been fertilized within their specific its lifespan, which is around about 24 hours, it starts to disintegrate along with the lining of the uterine muscular, or we can say vascularized wall of the uterus. So let us consider, for example, in a human female, on the date, suppose today 18th of August, the ovary of the left side has ovulated. It has released a mature ovum, and it will wait for around about 24 hours for the process of fertilization. If it doesn't take place, what happens that the ovum which has been released, it will start disintegrating along with the developed vascularized uterine wall that is form of, we can say, or full of blood vessels. So it will start disintegrating, and around about the 14th day from this particular date, around about on 31st of August, the menstrual cycle will start, which will continue for around about 3 to 5 days. So the menstruation, it usually occurs 14th day after the ovulation and usually lasts for about 3 to 5 days. So as to the menstrual cycle overs, the eroded inner lining of the uterus gets repaired. Now the uterus again becomes ready to receive the next ovum. So just what may happen after that around about the 14th day from the start of the menstrual cycle, suppose around about on the coming 14th of September, the ovary of the right side will ovulate and release a mature ovum, and again it will wait for 1 day for 24 hours. If it gets fertilized, it may get implanted by the formation of zygote followed by the embryo, and if it doesn't get fertilized, so during the meanwhile, what has the most important process has occurred, that the uterine wall has again become vascularized. It has developed thick linings of blood vessels, and again we have to calculate from the 14th of September around about the 14th day, the ovum which has been released by the right side ovary have been disintegrated, and along with the disintegrated ovum, the lining of the blood vessels of the uterine wall will again would be released and discharged around about on the 28th September in the form of menstrual cycle. So again the menstrual cycle, it will last for around about 3 to 5 days, and again the cycle would be repeated in the same sequence, in the same manner, by the left ovary and then again by the right ovary, alternating every around about by 28 days. As we have discussed in the previous classes, the first menstrual flow in the life cycle of the human female is called as menarche, which is at the age of puberty, after attaining the age of puberty, around about 10 to 12 years of age. So we can say the menarche, or we can say the menarche is the time when the girl becomes capable of, we can say, going through the developmental process that is occurring within the female reproductive system. Whereas the permanent stoppage of menstrual flow in a woman is called as menopause, which may occur at the age of around about 45 to 50 years, and this marks the end of the reproductive life of the woman. So till so far here, thank you, have a nice day.